بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. As I mentioned in Jum'ah today that we'll be continuing the topic of the Jum'ah, which was about the life history of Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah. For those who are not here in the past Fridays, we have covered the basics, or at least the major portion of the life that we wanted to talk about in our Jum'ahs in the previous 2 or 3 Jum'ahs. And because we wanted to finish the topic without any further delay to the other A'imma, therefore I decided that we will finish it at this time, so that inshallah we can continue with the other A'imma in our Friday sessions. We talked about the beginning of Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah's life, the changes that came into his life, his devotion to the knowledge, his devotion to his teachers, and then finally taking over the position of his teacher after his teacher Hamad passed away, and compiling the fiqh. That was the first person to think about it, or at least who practically started compiling the fiqh. And at the same time, it was the time of Tabi'een, ending time of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, the beginning days of Tabi'een. And there were a lot of students of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een available to quote the ahadith and give the proper tafsir of the ayahs of Al-Quran Al-Kareem if needed and when needed. So it was the right timing for compiling the science, because you would always need proof from Quran and Hadith. So as we talked in Jum'ah that Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah formed a committee of 40 people who all used to discuss the matter before documenting that. And before coming to a final decision, they all will give their ideas about it, their understanding of it, and they were masters in their own prospective fields like tafsir, hadith, fiqh, the language, and many others. So they used to deal with it from their own topic and field. And finally, as all of them will end with any decision, that decision will be documented, and that was called the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah. So it wasn't one person's opinion, it is a committee of 40 mujtahideen, 40 of those who all are considered to be on the level of ijtihad. And they discuss it, and finally when they agree to something, whatever the decision is, they would write that down, and that was called the fiqh Hanafi. Of course, because it was something new, many people had questions about it. Why to do something like this? Why would you need something like this? Many of them asked questions that why would you talk about situations that have not occurred yet? There were scholars who were of the opinion that if there is a situation that did not occur, did not take place, so we should not even consider it, we should not even talk about it. Let's wait until people will have to face it, then at that time we will discuss it. Just like when Qatada, a great mufassir, a student of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, came to Kufa. And he asked people to ask him any question about tafsir. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah was in the gathering, and he asked him that in Quran Al-Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have talked about Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam. And he says that there was a person sitting next to Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam who said, I can bring the castle of Bilqis before your eyes will blink. So who was that? Qatada rahimahullah replied that his name was Asif ibn Barkhiyah. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, he's sitting next to a prophet Can any person be more knowledgeable than a prophet? How could Sulaiman alayhi salam did not bring it and he asked someone else to do it? Qatada rahimahullah said, did anyone ask you this question? He said, no. He said, don't ask me about it. That was the opinion, that if it did not come up, don't even talk about it. And if we don't know the answer, just end it there. Then he asked people, if you have any question about fiqh, you can ask about that. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah asked him, that if a person goes out of town, and especially now keep those days in mind where there are no means of communication, even nowadays similar situations take place sometime, but in those days it was more common. So the question was, if a person goes out of town and then he does not come for a long time, what should the wife do now? For how long she should wait for her husband? So he said, it was Umar radiallahu anhu's opinion to wait for 4 years. After 4 years, then she can spend the iddah and get married to someone else. He asked him the next question now, that what if the husband after 5 years came back to find out that she is married to someone else and she has a son too? She has a child from the other man. Now whose wife she is going to be? Again, Qatada's question was, did it happen? He said, no. He said, don't ask me about it. And similar questions were raised, and as I said, it wasn't because not necessarily that Qatada doesn't know the answer. That's not necessarily the fact. The point is that there were people of the opinion that if the situation did not rise, don't ask about it. Don't discuss it. But Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah was of a different opinion, and that was that try to think of situation that may rise at any time in this ummah. And then let's drive the ruling about it in the light of Quran and Sunnah, because we have many knowledgeable people around us at this time, and we will never have this much knowledge available to people, and especially knowledge from people of taqwa, knowledge from these students of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een. Knowledge is very fresh, we have just got it from them, so we will never have these type of people available. We better find the solutions for all the problems that Ummah will be facing in future, because if we won't solve it at this time, they may not be able to solve it later on. That was his opinion. So they started discussing these type of rulings, thinking about a situation that may rise at any time, and they would discuss it. Sometime, this is one point now that to remember. Another point, sometime Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Imam Abu Hanifa with a deep understanding that sometime he would come up with a solution that normally others will not think about. And by first look at the answer, it feels like it is against hadith. This answer cannot be right. It's not right because it's not understandable. It cannot be right because I know a hadith that means something else. So according to that hadith, this answer has to be wrong. But then when they would be told the other hadith where he is driving the ruling from, then people will agree with it. So with that type of very deep understanding, many times would just hear the ruling and have not heard where he got it from. So there were questions. So 2 reasons for questioning it. Number 1, why would you discuss something that have not occurred yet? This is one thing. Number 2, that the ruling that is driving are so deep that people have not thought about it before this, so they don't know if this thing really can be supported in the light of hadith, and many times they would think that it may be against a hadith. For these 2 reasons, there were many people who raised questions about it. And of course, on top of this, when you have people of knowledge, and a person with such a deep knowledge, such a deep understanding in a town or in a country, and when others are saying something, people would come and ask him the same question, and his answer is different, and they go back to that person that, look, Imam Abu Hanifa said this about it, and you said this. So of course, the person will be upset.